All right, meantime, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson was also seen on that tape, and he was asked about the conversation that went on a short time ago. Listen to this.
That's complete nonsense, and I don't know where that's come from. On Debbie's question and your question, I really don't know what is being referred to.
There we go. None of the leaders actually mentioned Trump by name on the tape. It's important to mention, of course, but they certainly seem to be referring to him. Bruce Heyman is a former U.S. ambassador to Canada, and he's standing by in Chicago. Bruce, great to have you on the show now. And, of course, as always, what do you make of this story?
Oh, it's Trump at his usual, his normal. He is creating a distraction, and he needs a distraction. We have one of the most significant events in U.S. history taking place simultaneously with this, and those are impeachment hearings of a president. Only happened 3 previous times. The prime minister did not say anything that was offensive, and anybody making it seem that he did is wrong. And the president made those statements and then backtracked on them and then joked about them. Look, he's creating a media distraction, which has taken place around the world, and to try to take impeachment off the headlines. And that's where the president is right now.
So your take would be, frankly, this won't do any sort of damage, really, between Canada and the United States, and possibly not even between these two men.
No, I don't think so. I think in all reality that Canada is our best friend. It's our greatest trading partner. It's our greatest ally historically. And, you know, Trump is Trump. He's very transactional. That's what he's all about. He doesn't have deep relationships with any of these leaders, it's clear. And he's just coming in blustering, talking about his 2% and doing his thing. And the reality is that we as a country are facing a significant issue with regard to his presidency, and he needs every distraction he can get right now.
You know, you were an insider as an ambassador for a long time, and what I find fascinating about these kind of stories is, you know, the cover gets pulled back a little bit, and we kind of see some of these frank conversations that go on. In this case, you've got the leaders of Canada and the Netherlands and France and the UK all huddled around talking about Donald Trump. For each one of those countries, their relationship with the U.S. is, of course, very important. Is this surprising, though, or does this kind of stuff happen all the time?
You hope world leaders find the time to have a more casual conversation, to build relationships beyond these formal meetings that take place with staffers all next to them reading talking points. So that's what these side meetings are all about at Buckingham Palace, or whether it happens at G7 meetings or even at other meetings that take place. So it's important that they do that. And this was a social conversation that was taking place. I don't think anything that was said was wrong. And yes, everything was delayed because Donald Trump. Yes, his staffers probably dropped the jaw when he was talking about the next G7 meeting at Camp David, or talking about retaliation against our NATO allies. And so I'm sure the staffers, you know, were taken back by some of his comments. And I think he was just being frank.
Let me ask you as well on, you know, obviously the headline that we're hearing now is, you know, Trump says that Trudeau is two-faced, but of course he went on to say, but he's also a nice guy as well. So there's sort of two messages that are coming out from the president at the same time.
Yeah, I think it's just a distraction. You know, I know the prime minister. I've never known him to be two-faced in all of my interactions with him. We work closely. We talked even through this 2% level. By the way, the president has that all wrong. He keeps talking about 2%. They owe us 2%. They owe us 2%. We don't owe anybody anything as a country, and you don't either. It's all about the percentage spending of your defense spending as part of your GDP. Canada's always been there for us. You were there with us in Afghanistan. You had higher fatality rates than we did, and you sacrificed so much as part of NATO, as part of the response. And so, look, I'm grateful for the relationship we have. This will not impact it long term, and this will be a very short-term story.
The other thing I'm curious about is lost in all of this, of course, is the actual meeting that happened with the NATO members and the military alliance itself, Donald Trump not holding a closing press conference as well. Where do you think the president actually stands? There's a lot of noise, so can you cut through it for us and tell us what you think Trump really thinks about NATO?
I don't know what Trump really thinks about a lot of things, honestly. I'm going to be honest with you. I think that if you talk to members of Congress, if you talk to our military, if you talk to most of the leaders within the United States, we value NATO. We value that alliance. It has been in place since post-World War II, and it has defended Europe and all of the members of NATO against attacks. And I think that the president is just off on some Don Quixote type mission here to try to do some transaction and make people pay more for something they don't pay for. All they're doing is investing in military spending. So where does Donald Trump feel about this? Your guess is about as good as mine about where he really feels about some of these things, but that will not change the overall relationship long term. I think the structure of the United States is holding firm, even in this crazy presidency.
Bruce Heyman, former ambassador to Canada from the United States, joining us today from Chicago and Illinois. Bruce, thank you so much for this. Great to get your perspective as always.